August 7, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. There was no economic data that came out to really move the market any which way. It was a really large range, which we've been seeing lately for the last few days, I think all the way since last week, because in the highs to the very lows, in the regular trading hours, it's like 52.20 to about 53.59. So this is a 130 point range or 130 point move. And then if you look at the, if you look at the after hours, it goes down even further. So it's a pretty large move. It was a spike, two legs up, well, at least one leg up, two leg pullback, and another leg, a shallow leg that moved up. And then it looked like it was just kind of struggling to make any additional highs here. Then a large sell off. And overall, there was a lot of volume today, but there weren't that many setups. I took a total of 3 trades. You can see them right here in quick succession. And unfortunately, this is a loss, this is a winner, and then this was a loss. So I had 2 losers and 1 winner. And after this trade, I also knew that I wasn't really seeing the market correctly. And I was probably, not in tune. So it was best that I just not take any further trades. I did mark up ones that I thought were potential trades and potential setups, and then these black arrows were, I don't know if they're necessarily trades, but they're things that I saw and I noticed, and I had a feeling about them. I wouldn't really say they're almost trades because there's just more like a hunch based upon this what I've seen in the past and whatnot, but definitely not good enough for me to execute a trade, even if I was trading after this trading right here. So I'm just going to go pinpoint where my trades or where I marked the trades were, so this video doesn't get too long. I couldn't find a dominating downtrend. I mean, this uptrend, you clearly see it's like 2 legs up. This consolidation area, you can argue there's some smaller swing legs, but then the big dominating bias was bearish. And I didn't really draw this channel until much later that it didn't help out too much. So I was working with a lot of shortened trend channels, these smaller, tighter ranges. So I'm going to go into the trades directly. So pre-market, those 2 legs up, pre-market high, and it started moving up this green channel, which was easy to find the support pretty early because you could draw this line, and here. So I, had this channel that I suspected prices were moving in, and I actually had this a little lower, the resistance side, because I saw this as an overshoot. So it kind of sets up for the first trade, and it was also a losing trade. Now, I saw this as an overshoot. I saw that this was 2 key entry points. Now, it's a new high here. First entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long is confirmed on this green bar. I also saw this as a new low. Well, not new low, but localized low. First entry short, second entry short. The second entry short looks like it's about, pretty much failed on this candle. So on this next bar, but in real time, this is what I'm seeing and this is what I'm thinking, which in hindsight wasn't the best way. I'm thinking, okay, there's 2 key entry points. It's bouncing off the EMA. Things are telling momentum wants to push it back up. So I entered the trade 1 tick above this guy, and it goes up, flushes down, and stops me out because my stop loss was 1 tick below this guy. So it stopped me out for a little bit bigger loss than I usually take. And that was not the best trade. And I look at it in hindsight, this was not even a good setup because the failed second entry shorts, first entry short, second entry short, when you see this, it really hasn't failed yet because the next candle, which we don't know yet, could actually keep creeping down. Then it'd be a first entry short, second entry short, and it would continue down without a failure. The other thing I didn't consider was this possible overshoot may create another overshoot on this side. But the way I saw it is it's choppy. It tried to make 1 leg down, pulls back up, try to make a second leg down. So I thought maybe the downtrend or the downtrend attempt after this overshoot has played out. And I was giving more respect to the EMA than I should have at this juncture, especially on this mediocre setup. Because if I wanted to go for a long, I needed a more reliable setup than just saying, well, it's also bouncing off the EMA, off a potential failed second entry short. So in hindsight, this wasn't a good trade at all. I took the loss. it bounces. So now I have a lot of confidence in this green down channel, green up channel. And then it sets up for the second trade, which happened really shortly after. It's only 7 minutes later. When it pushed past through this, I was considering maybe this isn't quite an overshoot. Maybe I'm still within the range, something like this. So it made a new high, say first entry long pullback, second entry long. So the second entry long I saw for the previous overshoot, I mean, it didn't break through this support. So I wasn't sure that this overshoot is going to create a support break on this side because it came down, touched it, and continued back up. When this candle formed, here, seeing it in real time, first entry short, second entry short, excuse me, first entry long, second entry long. You don't have a second entry long confirmed yet, but I had a hunch, it's bouncing off of this. It's showing clear strength. And there could be enough momentum to push it back up and through the EMA. So I entered, so it opened here, it flushed down, and I had my stop limit order right here. A limit order right here, and it was just waiting. It pushes through, and I would say in the matter of a couple of seconds, it also gave me my profit because this was a really rapid fire move. If I had a larger profit target of 2 points, maybe in 3 points, I think it would have filled those as well because it just opened here, flushed down a little bit, was a little noisy. I dropped in my order and then it just blasted up and through. So I was green on this trade, but it didn't wash out the loss on this trade, unfortunately. So then let's just go ahead and drag this down. So then prices hit this consolidation area. And I'm thinking, okay, this looks like it's kind of ranging. There's definitely some kind of resistance here, maybe an unconfirmed, unreliable support here, but definitely a support on this green up channel. This is where I actually take my third trade, and it was also a loss, unfortunately. Now, drag this down. I know this EMA is acting as support now. There have been some push-throughs and violations, but the backup is this green up channel support is acting pretty strong. So I saw this, and this is the part that I look back in hindsight and wasn't that great. I saw this as a new high. So it's the first entry long pullback. It makes this 4 micro touch test, and when this was forming, I figured if it can break through these 4 touches and potentially break through this trading range, then it might be on its way up because these are making higher lows every time. So I thought the bias was still strong enough, and it looked like buyers are really pushing in, and it might overwhelm the sellers. But this trade is too tight, too tightly, and it's too much consolidation. There's a doji right here. These candles, although they're having trouble breaking through the four matching highs, my thought was if it can break through, it might flash up quickly to give me my 1 point scalp, and then maybe come down or continue upwards. But that is more of a gamble trade because it's not a very high probability setup. So definitely it was just not a setup at all, in my opinion, in hindsight. But in real time, I'm looking at it, and this trade also happened about 6 minutes after this. So this trade was a loss. 7 minutes later, I take a win. 6 minutes later, I go for another trade, which is in this type of environment with this price action, which is clearly not trending strongly in a direction or not respecting a clear trading range. This was a very low probability trade, and I should have just kept it, unfortunately. But I took it, and in the same candle, before waiting for this to close to confirm the first entry long, second entry long, I mean, the least I could have done was wait to confirm it. I didn't, and it flushed down and stopped me out on the same bar. So that's unfortunate. At that point, I realized, okay, I need to stop trading because I took 2 losses, and the first, they were both off really sketchy setups. So I had to, pretty much back it up then, but then just keep watching the charts. But then prices continue up. It breaks out of the green channel, pops through. I don't see any clean setups. You do have a new low, first entry short. You technically have a second entry short break of this purple up channel. So you're thinking the uptrend has played out, but unfortunately it's above the EMA, and overall bias has been bullish. So definitely not a good short to take here. You have a higher low here. The problem I had with this was it closed right at the EMA. If it closed more strongly below decisively, I think there might have been a trade there. And it kind of gets just choppy. I didn't mean to do that. Let me put it back. It gets choppy. It hits this consolidation area, and I thought maybe there was a trade here, but I thought about it, and I think it's more of an almost trade, meaning it almost sets up the way I like it. The reason that it's almost trade is because I wasn't sure this yellow up channel is really that clean, because it could actually be something like this. Break and then push to a new high. So 2 legs up, and it looks like it's 2 legs down, maybe another 2 legs up. So I'm a little confused. And then I did think, well, maybe it's a larger yellow up channel and it's a break, first attempt up, pushback, second attempt up. It didn't quite meet the extreme. So maybe the uptrend played out, maybe it didn't. But it does have a triple test, made 1 attempt, 2 attempt, 3 attempt, and there could be a possible range. The signal bar was, kind of within the risk area that I would usually take. But, if it closed a little bit more at the lows, then I think it would have been more of a potential trade instead of an almost trade. So I wasn't too sure about this setup. And then it pushes up on this big second leg, and it looks like it hits this second consolidation area. So I saw this as a new high. It's a first entry long. After the break of this orange up channel, it made 1 attempt up, pull back. In real time, it looks like it's about to try a second attempt up. Break this yellow up channel. So technically, depending on how you drew it, broke, already tested the high, made 2 legs down. Potentially, it's going to create a second leg that moves up. For a second entry long, this is a good signal bar. And even though it hasn't tested the highs here, because depending on how you drew it, I think it fits best like this. But if you try to include this, you could have something such as this, where this is the first break, first attempt up, second attempt up. I don't quite like that. I actually liked it the first way I had it. And my thinking was, maybe this is the first break. There's no decisive close outside. Maybe it's already tested the new high. First attempt up, if not, and the second attempt up. It looked like if you try to go in for 1 point scalp, you probably would have gotten it. But then I saw this and I thought this is a better higher low confirmation, bottom of this range, triple test. So I thought this is actually the better trade to have taken because it confirms the second entry long. It's a decent signal bar, and it looked like there would be enough room to make it to the high. So if you took it here, you'd be early. Taking here is even better, or if you already took it here, you feel a little more confident seeing this. And it looked like right about here, you probably would have at least gotten your 1 to 2 point profit. If not, you would have been scrapped and flushed out right there. And prices continue moving. I saw this as a possible short trade. So it's a overshoot here, makes a matching overshoot. It's a new high, new low, first entry short, second entry short, lower high, but this lower high isn't very clean because technically this is your lower high because this is the higher than this one. But then you have a follow-up candle here. It just wasn't that clean. But I also saw this as a new high, first entry long, potential second entry long failure right when this forms, but it's a little iffy. So it could be a breakout pullback because a failed breakout here, pushed in, it failed and came back out. So I'm thinking it's a potential failed breakout pullback. And it's a decent signal bar, but it feels you do have enough room to lows of here because that's where you'd probably be concerned it might be a bounce, but it just didn't feel clean enough for me. Then prices move down, it gets choppy, breaks out of this yellow down channel, breaks, makes new low, then pushes back up on this orange up channel. Things are just a little noisy here. Whether this is a clean range or not, I'm not sure, but I had it drawn at the time, and I saw this as a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long, you don't know if it's going to continue upwards, then it fails. So it's a second entry long failure, potentially similar to this, a breakout pullback of this range. It's a decent signal bar to jump in on, but from here to here, I mean, you have enough to scalp out, but it feels dicey. It's about 2 points, but it felt a little bit dicier. I don't have this green down channel drawn, so I couldn't use this as another key entry point. So it just felt like it's a little bit unclear what the bias is. Plus, you look back to the left, it had a strong push up. It's not selling off. It's not reversing and going back up. It just feels range bound. So when you zoom in on what's happening here, I wasn't that clear on what was going on. If this candle had been red and closed at the low, then I'd see a first entry long, second entry long. This would confirm the failure, and I would think there's enough momentum, but it just left things a little bit unsure. I didn't know if it was going one way or the other. So definitely something like that, got to leave it alone. Prices move down, and this kind of runs up to what I thought. Well, I saw something. I thought it was a hunch or a hunch trade, as I like to call them. At this point, I do have this drawn as a trend line coming down. It's actually a little bit tighter. I think I had it maybe touching here, something closer to this. And I saw this break and push down. I thought there's a potential sell-off going on because the break of this orange up channel made one attempt up, makes a higher by one tick move than this guy, just by one tick, but that's enough to say it tested the high and potentially could flush down. It was a hunch because I thought if only this had been red and ideally closed below the EMA, then I would surely think it's a trade there. But I would think as a hunch, when I see this, I'm thinking, I think this is going to sell off, push back down, because this is coming into play. It's already near the EMA, so potentially two key entry points. But of course, I was considered myself done trading for my two losses. That it did end up working out. The prices pushed down, and this is another hunch trade that if I was trading, I would consider. So I saw this as a new high. Clearly, there's a support here. It's a first entry long pullback. I like that it moved one tick below and then pushed up. So this second entry long here, first entry long, hidden second entry long, it would only be viable if you took it on the engulfing, because if you took it after the close, I'd be very nervous that it's going to find resistance here now. So another hunch trade, I saw it happening in real time. I was thinking, is there a trade there? But I didn't have enough experience or knowledge to trust it enough. Then I do see a failed second entry long possible trade here. So it's this yellow up channel clearly moving up. It's a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long hasn't failed yet, but I also like that this signal bar for the second entry long is a pretty weak signal bar. The following bar, the trigger bar, that if this is a good signal bar and you, in different contexts, want to take a second entry long, you'd probably enter on this candle, the trigger bar. But since it has a terrible signal bar, flushes up, flushes down, I think there's a possible trade. You would take it after this signal bar, not this signal bar, this trigger bar closed. But it looks like you would enter here. This already broke, made one attempt up, pull back, second attempt up. Now, whether it keeps going or not, you don't know yet, but I would have placed my order probably at the lows of this candle or one tick below. And as you can see, it would have worked, but that's neither here nor there. Then prices continue moving down. Go ahead and zoom out a bit. This big gray channel doesn't exist yet. It goes down nicely on this red down channel, breaks out, makes one attempt down, second attempt down, but this isn't a very clean second entry because you can see this is just one leg. But let's say you do a technical count, first entry short, second entry short. This isn't a very good signal bar to go short on. Then when this closes, it felt a little bit too late. So finally, when you get this lower high, I thought this lower high is actually probably a decent setup. The signal bar itself is only at 10 ticks. And ideally, it would have flushed up, hit the EMA and flushed down. But this was close enough that I thought there's probably enough momentum to push down. So on a technical count, it's first entry short, second entry short. On a bigger visual, I see it as first entry short, pullback, second entry short right here. So a potential trade right there to come back and test the lows of this red down channel. Plus the EMA is starting to show and act as resistance because you have a clear bearish bias now. Then prices continue moving. This is where I find another potential setup right here, a possible trade. The new low, first entry short, second entry short. I like this because it was this red down channel broke, made two attempts down, then it was two attempts up, like a small little recovery. And this is a decently small signal bar, another 10 ticks. It does touch the EMA this time and is flushing down. The only issue that I have is it's an inside bar, but I don't think the inside bar is that big a deal because I also saw this as a potential trading range because I saw these are matching, well, not matching, but very close highs. And in real time, this looks like it's kind of ranging right now. So I thought there was enough momentum to get a quick scalp out of this. Turns out it would have worked. Then prices continue moving down. So I was playing with a number of different trend lines. So this gray existed at one point, but I didn't trust it because I had other things going on. Some starting from way back here and whatnot. It moves up on this yellow up channel. It's this consolidation area. It's a new high. It's a first entry long, second entry long. I didn't like this second entry long because it started, if it had only ticked one tick below, or at least touched here, then I could say 1, 2, potential triple test. There is a triple test here, right? But I needed this to at least be closer or break below and then flush up. The other problem was this is a rather large candle. This is 6.5 point candle. So even if you took it in the engulfing, your stop loss is way down here on this huge 5-point candle. So yeah, I just had to let it go just to, well, I say that like I was trading, but I'm not. But if I was trading, I'd have to let it go. And prices hit this consolidation area, starts flushing down. At this point, I have a little bit of inkling that this could be a potential channel, but there's only really 2 confirmations and 1 touchdown here. And on top of that, there's the size of this range or the size of this channel is so large compared to the candles, it's not offering much help for setups. Prices move down, breaks out of this purple channel, hops around, makes another move down, and this is where I saw another hunch trade. It's like a new low, first entry short, second entry short. The problem was I needed this to be the red color to know that it closed lower, and I think this would have been a really decent trade because it had an overshoot here, made a corresponding overshoot. EMA is holding prices, and I thought there was a potential trade here. It's more of a hunch. Then prices kind of chop sideways. It gets rather noisy. There's a spike and a channel. There are some second entries in here, but nothing particularly clean that I like. It was just kind of crawling and oscillating, creating a lot of noise. And then I did see second entries in here, but again, this is like a new high, first entry short, excuse me, first entry long, second entry long. The signal bar for the second entry long is a doji, and it's below the EMA, which makes me nervous. And I tried to find a higher low, but I didn't see one. Then it suddenly reverses back down. Again, you have the same thing. It's a new high. Actually, it's higher than this one. It's a first entry long, second entry long. Here, again, I'm below the EMA. I don't quite trust this channel just yet because it doesn't cleanly match the bottoms. I mean, you do have lower spikes, and the top is a little iffy too because I don't have this as a guideline yet. I only see this. So it's too early, in my opinion, to draw this big channel and trust it. But there is a second entry long here. Prices continue moving. You have a new low here, first entry short, pullback, second entry short. This is your signal bar for the second entry short. You're not thinking short just necessarily, even though this trend channel could help. But then when this flushes down, now it feels a little too late because this is also a huge candle. This is a 6-point candle, so I had to, again, leave it alone. And it's getting close to the end of the day where, you know, prices are just going to get really volatile. Kind of moves back into the last 10 minutes. So kind of how I saw the charts today. Unfortunate, I had these these really bad trades and really bad setups, and I do notice that if I take a bad trade and it loses, I get frustrated and have a stronger tendency to try to, I guess the best way to say is maybe invent a setup to justify taking a trade just to try to win back the loss, which is pretty much just revenge trading. I need to definitely work on my mental to hammer out those because these 3 successive trades, all of them, even though the second one won, weren't very good setups. I needed to have waited for these better setups over here. So hopefully that was helpful.